Hey friends, hope you're doing well. You know, you don't have to have the latest and greatest tech to have a smart device that works in your day-to-day. And I'm here to prove that because I've been using this iPhone SE, the OG, the original from 2016. This phone's been out for 9 years, just about, coming up on 9 years. And it is still a fantastic piece of machinery. In fact, I would recommend considering something like this versus the latest and greatest device that you have to pay $1,200 for or take out a loan for or make credit card payments on. I can't recommend a device like this enough. I'm traveling right now for work and I brought this device with me. I normally use the Light Phone 2, but when I travel, sometimes I'll pop in a SIM card to a smarter device just so I don't have to worry as far as like tethering and using a hotspot to find GPS and things like that. So this little guy is running, or girl, or whatever gender you want to give it. This phone runs iOS 15, and the biggest thing, and that's the latest it can go. And I think right now they're on like iOS 18. And they're about to announce apparently a new iPhone altogether in a couple of weeks. This particular model that I'm holding is a 16 gigabyte storage option, which, if I'm being honest, is a little bit too little of a storage option. And I was thinking about this actually, just a quick little sidebar. When iPhones and phones like that started coming on the market, that's really when I feel like streaming became a thing, because it was cheaper to buy a lower storage device and then use things like Spotify or Pandora or whatever, instead of getting the higher storage phone and then using, offline music and storage. Let's start with the camera. The camera is amazing. This phone will actually shoot slow motion video, 720p, at 240 frames per second, which is something even my cinema camera that I shoot commercials with can't do. Now, the stabilization on this phone is just garbage, so you will want to think about that. You'll want to basically have a very still hand when you're shooting video. I normally keep it at 25 frames per second and shoot in 1080 because, again, I'm using 16 gigabytes of storage space, and after you take all the iOS and all of the stock space out of that, there's only like 4 gigs of available storage. So I got to be like really mindful of what I'm shooting, what I'm doing. 25 frames per second, video looks great, the photos are delicious.
Very cold out.
It's funny too because originally I think that the reason this phone took off the most is because of its video capability and because people are getting into Snapchat and Instagram and things like that. And I feel like that's why iPhone kind of took an edge over Android and for many years, because people would prefer to have this kind of simple, easy to use experience. Now, we all know that the other reason that people gravitate to an iOS device is iMessage. And iMessage, you either love it or you hate it, because if you don't use it, you probably dislike it, or you've rubbed up against it in a way that is off-putting to you, like it has me. In the United States specifically, there's been this age-old debate of green bubble versus blue bubble for ages, and I think that's just bubbleism, and I'm not here for it. I reject it. So iMessage runs great on here. I don't prefer to use iMessage because I do swap my SIM a good deal when I'm reviewing devices or using the Light Phone, and I don't like to have to fight the iMessage thing over and over. So I prefer, when I put a SIM card in an iOS device, the very first thing that I do is toggle off iMessage, because if you don't, then people start texting you, and then you have this like this two-way street where your phone is used in iMessage in some places and SMS in others, and it can kind of mess things up. So if you are an iOS person through and through, just leave it on. But if you ever plan to use like a dumber phone, or if you've gone to Android and then come back to an iOS device, I would recommend not using iMessage. That's me, but that's a personal decision. The form factor is another thing I want to touch on. Nowadays, every phone is just getting so freaking big, and I have big hands. Like, look at my hand and this pretty good size coffee mug here. Look at my hand. And these modern phones are so big, I can't fit it in my hand. So I end up having to be like two-handing a device. And I feel like this is the analogy I was thinking of. I feel like one of those neglected babies at an Applebee's, like an iPad baby that's just sitting in a high chair, just like with an iPad. And I don't want to feel like that. And I'm sorry to all the babies out there that have had to experience that. But this form factor is just wonderful. It's simple, it's clean. It's like, I think this is aluminum. I don't know, look it up yourself. I don't know what it's made of. But it is, I never drop it because it's fits in the hand, easy to use. You've got Touch ID. Another big selling point is the headphone jack, which is just going away more and more. I don't know why that's the first thing at the scrapping board when companies are thinking up a new device. I don't know why they first go, let's strike the headphone jack because people like it too much. I think that's what they say. The apps that you need, or that I need, that I care about, still work. There are some things that are starting to lose support. In fact, on my way here, I tried to use the Southwest Airlines mobile app, and when I opened it, Southwest was like, sorry, iOS 15, we're done with you. We're not doing this anymore. Hit the bricks, kid. And basically pushed me to the Safari mobile website instead. That was one example of an app that lost support for me that worked out because I was able to just print my ticket and move on with my day. But the apps that I care about are Slack, Telegram, Bandcamp, Uber, Bitwarden, Remarkable, Google Calendar, Google Maps. Those are the things that I care about. Those work just fine. And the other thing about the iOS ecosystem, which is very much a walled garden, we've heard that phrase before, but their stock apps are really good. Like the Mail app is probably the best email client app that you could get for free out there, in my opinion. There's no ads. None of their apps have ads on them. They just work. It's like Apple kind of owns that phrase of like, it just works. So I think this phone still is very relevant in 2025 for someone looking to purchase. I would recommend getting a higher storage option than that 16 gigabyte because again, it's pretty skimpy. As I'm looking on eBay right now, you can get a 128 gigabyte version of this device for $125 refurbished. And then another thing that's nice about these older devices is they're actually somewhat reasonable to repair yourself. So you could work with like iFixit and get all the materials and the downloads and everything and walk step by step. So if you have like an hour or two on a weekend and some patience and the right tools, you could easily swap out a battery on this or a broken screen, which used to be the thing. People break their screens on these phones every day. But my goal in this channel is just to give you ideas and ways to come at technology in a different way, upcycling, recycling. And so hopefully you'll consider a device like this in 2025 versus buying the latest and greatest, because I think there's a point of diminishing return with our dollars and tech, and we need to fight capitalism a little bit if we can. Thank you for watching. Hang out. We'll see you soon. Ow. Hit my head.